somehow the old course, hope none of you did that like I did. I didn't realize there was an updated course, which it was. The one I had was January. But the one that we got on the 4th, that was sent to us on the 4th, is the accurate one. And there's a big difference in the courses. Did anybody have a chance to read it, go over everything, I hope?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, I had a question. CTR is going to be the only instructor of this course, is that correct? Or would they offer it to other instructors and schools that are teaching?
It'll be available to other schools and instructors.
Okay, and we normally do a train the trainer session for the single mandatory course. Would there be any sort of train the trainer for this too, or?
I had understood the last cycle, train the trainer was not necessary. They said we just did that at our own option, which surprised me. And I don't know if there was a train the trainer for the current agency. The course called agency law. I don't know if they did a train the trainer for that.
I believe Kristen did the train the trainer for that.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could certainly make it available.
Okay.
But it will not be available to every instructor who wants to teach it. We didn't realize that we had that option until the last cycle as well.
Okay, thanks.
Is there a cost to this for the course?
No,
So the schools will be able to obtain this without a charge?
that's correct.
Okay. I think the main thing is that I think we have concerns, and it's about the confusion this is going to cause. As you know, we're almost in the middle of our cycle here. Most of the agents, first course they take is the mandatory course. A lot of them already have taken the mandatory. So I want to know, I guess I would feel more comfortable to find out exactly how you're going to display this on your website. Cindy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I believe that Ryan and Jason said that when people go to the site, it will list the courses, and so that any licensee will be able to find it.
No, your site.
On our site, well,
How are you going to display it on your site?
well, we would let people know which schools are teaching it, and then the schools, it's my understanding that if school wants to offer it, they have to get it separately approved. Is that correct? I don't see if Ryan I feel like I'm answering licensing questions.
Yeah, I can jump in here quickly if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so obviously the CTRs, we don't have control over what they put on their website, but as far as what DCP is going to put on our website, you're obviously going to be able to sort, as we have previously, for courses that fulfill the requirements for the mandatory course. And this would be one of them that would be clear. It's also from the conversations that this commission has had, we think that it would be appropriate to put some kind of information either on our website or push to the licensees, letting them know that there will be multiple courses that you can take, any one of which may fulfill the requirements for the mandatory course, and you're only required to take one. And once we've massaged that language and had that out to the public, combined with how the website at DCP is searchable, we think that we should at least reduce the confusion that may exist among the industry. But obviously, if you have other recommendations, we'd welcome them.
Well, there will be confusion. The question is, again, is that we've got to make sure the fact is that this is not the mandatory course. You can take this course on it and it will satisfy the mandatory course. Simple as that. It has to be explained as such. Amy, your hands up.
This course is just intended to be an instructor, an in-person instructor-led or live virtual class. Is that correct?
That's how it's been designed.
Okay, thank you.
I think, did you see the application that was in, Amy?
I did, I guess, but I didn't, but I looked at it last time, so I didn't relook at it today. I was just looking at the course again.
I think it said, yeah, right. But then, well, I guess my point here is it hasn't changed, has it? That application was done in January. You did any modification of that application?
We did not do a modification of the application. There are 2 new protected classes we became aware of, and so we needed to edit those in. In addition, Amy mentioned during the last meeting that she did not see the instructor notes. So when Ryan asked me to be sure that everything was combined into one document, the instructor note version was provided. You know, because you could see both. You could see the course
Thank you.
presentation and you could see the instructor notes. So we wanted to be sure that everything that had been requested was actually, it had been submitted before, but just it was all in one place.
Right. So, and from DCP's perspective, the application that this commission received last time around has not been changed other than the materials that were sent to you separately. So the application remains the same.
So actually, as you said before, any school who wants to have a mandatory course can submit it in just like CTR has. Am I right?
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay. Boy, this could get very confusing. Because right now, so, I mean, we've had the educational committee for years, you know, who's gone and approved these courses. It's taken months to go through these courses and approve it through a committee. I mean, why do we need a committee, I guess, huh? Anybody want to say anything?
To whom is that question directed, Mr. Chairman?
I guess it'd be the commissioners.
So as a member of the education committee this cycle, you know, I would say for the next cycle, it probably would be a good idea to have someone from DCP on that committee so they can provide guidance as far as if we want to put certain restrictions in place or what we want to do through regs. And then NAR also just approved that fair housing is going to become mandatory through their cycle starting in 2025. So, you know, that should probably be on the table for us to look at too for the next continuing ed cycle and how we want to manage that going forward. Do we want to continue to have fair housing in our own state program or not, because it may be redundant and maybe we could cover other topics. So I would say probably this cycle will just have the next cycle. So this cycle we're going to have to deal with if more people want to, or more companies want to come up with mandatory training that we then review and say is acceptable or not. Then we just have to manage it and deal with it. And it may be a little confusing this cycle, but next cycle we can probably just put regulations in place that say, you know, if you want to submit something for mandatory training cycle, it has to be in by a certain date. And then that shuts it off from this kind of rolling process that would happen, right, that we're seeing right now.
I think appraisal has that. If we could probably follow that, be consistent on. We've done a lot over the years, similar pattern as appraisal has. So that may be easier that, but we definitely have to put some type of a deadline, you know, to try to clear up this confusion that's going to happen.
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And just to piggyback on that, if there were either a subcommittee of this commission or the education committee or anyone else you want to review these materials prior to approval, that deadline would give you the window to have other people review it before this commission has to take a final vote on approval. The committee could also, as has been discussed, approve kind of broad-based guidelines on what you do and do not want in the mandatory course beyond the simple real estate laws and regulations and fair housing, which is what's currently in the regulation. So Definitely, you're going to have some opportunities to guide and tailor this in the future. But for today, I think it's we just have to deal with the application that's before you.
So how long and how hard or is it going to be able to get regulations for this that we're talking about, Brian?
Well, fortunately, I have not heard any resistance to the real estate legislative package in a significant way. I know that Leslie has been working hard over at the legislature, and so far, we're receiving positive signs, though anything obviously could happen. If that legislation passes, we're going to have to pass a bunch of regulations anyway to bring the regulations in line with what the statutes say. And that would be a great opportunity to fix this as well, because it could just go together as one big package.
Mhm.
So, but to answer your more specific question on timing, I would say if the legislation goes through, at the end of this session, we're talking this summer, we could probably have a legislative or regulation package, late summer, early fall. At least we could start putting together language on this provision, if nothing else.
Right. I think, yeah, the sooner the better, obviously, to give them time. But actually, CTR did have a representative in the educational committee. I know Kristen you took her name off, but she was there. You're muted.
Cindy, I think you're muted.
Yeah, Kristen is no longer on staff. She
No.
left. She actually is over at UConn. So we did not have a rep on this. Kristen's a UConn staff person now.
I understand that. But prior to that, though, she was part of the commission.
You mean in prior years? Yes, in prior cycles, we had a rep.
Mhm. Okay, any other questions from the commission? Commissioners? Okay, Nikki.
Hi, I have a question on the protected classes. Considering this is fair housing, why are the classes limited? To what is it, 6 in the instructions?
So who's speaking? I can't.
Linda?
Hi,
Okay.
Linda. We chose the ones that are most likely identified by CHRO is where there are violations, along with our legal hotline. So we do list all of them, but then we focus on the ones that are of the greatest potential for violation. When we go more in depth. For example, many people don't realize we've had gender identity and expression since 1991. And if someone were to say, I want you to use my pronoun, someone might say, what's that? Or they refuse to do it, when in fact, they've been required, for longer than a decade to comply with that. So it's really to focus, and service animals are our number one call area. So we just really focused on the areas that we thought were most important for licensees to learn. But there is a slide where we go over all of them, which ones are in federal law and which ones are in state law. And then we pull out certain ones.
Commissioner, just in case it's helpful, the list of, I believe, the 16 classes is on page 17 of the materials.
Right. So let me understand, you do go into some depth about the other 11?
Well,
Cindy?
yeah, well, and for some depth, we review it. We give them the list. But as far as the amount of time, it was my understanding in talking to DCP that we could not do an entire course just on fair housing, that we needed to also include components related to new laws. So a course that we had developed earlier was 100% fair housing. And then when we needed to add new laws because of the language, we, took out an hour's worth of content and put in all of this other new law hot topics into it. But we do cover what the topics are. But again, the course that UConn provided has no fair housing. So we do think this is substantially better in the area of fair housing than no fair housing.
Thank you.
Well, I think they thought the love letter covered part of fair housing.
It's not it's not a violation of fair housing. It's just a cautionary, it's legal. It has a cautionary section, but it doesn't cover fair housing.
So the main thing is that the statute states that the 3 hours, classroom hours in current real estate and fair, which has to be fair housing legislation, licensing, laws, and regulations. So the course has this.
Yes, if you look at page 2, it's antitrust and real estate, licensing, sharing commission, confidentiality, photos. It covers all of those areas.
Yeah, it didn't, you know what it is? Cindy, the original, when it came with the application, that's what I got a hold of, did not cover this. This is different from the original. Am I correct?
No, it should be identical. As far as the timed outline should be identical.
Was, but anyhow, is what we have it now. Okay, anybody else? All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I
I
move
guess
that.
I do have input that I'd like to say. I'm still having problems with the mandatory portion of this, or lack thereof. I think it's going to be so confusing. I mean, people are already confused about, or not aware of the fact that they have to get their courses done early. So that's the number one hurdle. And then to have another hurdle, I think is just going to confuse the situation this year.
I think it's going to cause confusion too, but you know, my issue is I think that the course covers the things it's supposed to cover. So to my mind, I think it should be approved because it covers the points it's supposed to cover. I don't know how we eliminate confusion. I wish, Cindy, there was a way that you could make it so that my fear is that the licensees are going to end up taking more than the required courses. They're going to end up taking 2 mandatory courses. And I don't want to confuse these folks. There's already enough confusion.
Peter, it shouldn't matter though if they end up taking 2 mandatories, because one of them would still count as an elective. I mean, unless they've already done all 12 credits and they then said, all right, well, I need to take another class now.
That's what I'm thinking is going to
happen. But I would think that, like, if a message comes out from DCP, it can be pretty clear. And I would hope that office managers would also be able to clarify this. I mean, it's not rocket science. We've simply added another course. You can take it if you want. And if you haven't done your 12 credits and you took this one and you took the other one, well, now, one of them counts as an elective. That's all.
So most people don't read, most people don't listen. It's we need to make.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, if people don't read and don't listen, shame on them. I mean, this is your job.
99% of the population, in my experience.
Let's move on.
We got to make it unconfusing, because any confusion, it's going to bounce back to us.
Well, but unfortunately, there's no legal way, as long as this course meets requirements, to say that it can't be a required course based on how the statute is written. So
I think you're right, Amy. I agree with you.
We can, if we feel that about this confusion, what's going to happen.
The confusion is gonna cause DCP is gonna get a lot of calls and a very large response.
Yeah.
And
So,
we're gonna have
Mr. Chair,
licensees who aren't gonna know what to do.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
I don't have a problem with this course being an elective at all.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
So I can absolutely confirm there is confusion in the industry, regardless of whether or not there's a second mandatory course. We recently participated in the schools seminar. Attorney Pahokee was our representative, or one of our representatives there. And the number of repeated questions that he received concerning the change in time of when these continuing education courses are required to be completed took up a fair portion of the presentation, because even after an answer was given, people weren't listening and asked the same question again and again. So we fully expect that any change to this will result in some confusion, but that is not something that DCP is prepared to respond to. We fully expect that we will get increased calls, increased concern, people not always doing the right thing, because that is, in this industry or any of the others that we regulate, is fairly typical. But given that this course, as you've assessed, meets the requirements of the regulation, I'm not sure that denying it mandatory status is really going to change much. This will be the first time we can have the opportunity to educate, and every cycle thereafter, we'll have a little bit better compliance and a little bit better understanding in the industry. Any change is going to result in confusion, but that's why we're here to work with the industry. And obviously, if you have suggestions on how to reduce confusion in the industry, as you are the experts, we would be happy to work with you to accomplish that goal.
Mr. Hastings
Could you
has a
term it
question.
alternate,
Sorry.
mandatory course?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Maureen?
I just wondered if they could name it alternate mandatory course, which might start a little bit of thinking on the part of the student.
Clarification of it, yes. Good point.
There are some questions in the chat feature that from participants that probably should be answered for clarification.
Yeah, Mr. Hastings particularly asked a question that we've also been asking. What he's asking is, if someone who's already taken a mandatory and they take this class, will it count as an elective? It's a very good question.
I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, it's a class. It counts for 3 credits. It's been approved by the commission, so it's counted as an elective instead of the mandatory. Whichever one you take first is probably seen as the mandatory. And then you would presumably take this one next because it hadn't been released yet, and it's just being released now if it gets approved. So this would become the elective.
To frame it differently, you're required to take 12 hours of continuing education, and you're required to take 1 mandatory 3-hour course. If you took 2, that still counts towards your 12 hours. So you've taken 6 hours of continuing education. They both happen to qualify as mandatory courses. The only thing that wouldn't qualify is if you took the same course twice. You're not going to get credit if you take CTR's course 4 times. That's not going to qualify you for your 12 hours to continue ed. It has to be different courses. But CTR's mandatory course and the one that was approved through the UConn and Education Committee, I see no reason why both of those wouldn't qualify towards your 12 hours of C.
And Terry's saying the same topics haven't been counted in the past, but CTR's class is seen as different topics than what's covered in the current mandatory class.
Yeah. Morag's suggestion solves it for me. I don't know if that's possible, labeling it alternate.
I like it too, Peter. I'm a fan.
Then there's no confusion. It's very clear.
I mean, as far as within DCP, I don't know if we can have tags for that on our website, but obviously CTR is free to name and label their course as they see fit.
We could require any school that uses it to call it alternate. We could put that as a requirement for offering our course.
That would be fabulous. That if you can do that, I'm 100%. I think you got a great course.
Maureen, that's a good idea. I think this will clear up a lot of our discomfort here on this course. For this cycle, in other cycles, there'll be a different situation. We're going to have to address that now or shortly. Anybody else? Okay. So, do you agree, Cindy, on this, on the alternate?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a really good suggestion, and we're happy to require it for anyone who offers our.
Will it be alternate on this your site also?
On our CTR site, Linda?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, I mean, unlike DCP, we have the ability to do it. I mean, many licensees do go to their favorite school or favorite local association. So they're not, they will be getting a lot of information over and over.
I mean, based on what Cindy's telling me and what we can rely on, I move that we approve the course.
Hold on one second. I think whoever's gonna make the motion has to have the alternate to the current topics in fair housing.
I have one more question for Cindy, if I may.
Please.
Is the original, not yours, but the original mandatory course, is it on your site also?
No, they're not technically on our, well, I would have to ask Abby, she's on. I think we typically direct people to local associations or realtor-owned companies. We don't traditionally offer through our school, we don't deliver the courses. We have our local associations deliver the courses, Linda. We could put that on our site, but most people, when they're looking for courses, go directly to their local association, or they go directly to CE Shop, or they go to wherever their favorite provider is. So they'll see that on their site. We can definitely put it on our site if they look there, because we do list that. And if you would like us to, we can absolutely put it on our site, but I don't know if we would be their first point of contact for looking for a class. It would be
Well,
a local board.
you said everybody has their own sites they look to. And if that site is
Yeah.
CT Realtor, I think we should have both courses on your site.
Yeah, I mean, we could, if that's important, we could certainly point them to this other class.
And
Well,
the
let
other
me
message
ask you,
was-
like,
I think it's important for the agents.
like I'm a member of Bridgeport Board of Realtors. So I would get your class through the Bridgeport Board, correct? Because
Yes.
they would provide the teachers in the classroom, and they would disseminate the information.
Right, as the course provider and the instructor. But we can certainly put both courses and an explanation on our website. I mean, that's easy for us to do. We can do that today.
Okay, I'd like that done personally.
Okay, yep, we are pleased to do that. We'll do it today. I'll send you the link when we do it.
Okay, thanks.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, there's one more question from Jeff Weiss, I believe. Jeff, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Sorry I'm late. I just got out of a meeting and as fast as I could get here. I have a concern. The last time that CTR submitted a mandatory course, it ended up having some legal encumbrances around providers being able to teach it. Perhaps this was discussed, and I'm sorry if it was, but will this course, should it be approved, be available for any provider and educator to teach it, or is this just for CTR in purposes?
We understood during the last cycle from DCP Legal that anyone who develops a course has the option to deliver it only to the schools they wish to deliver it. So we are not going to make it available to every single instructor who asks in every single school. We also learned not to do anything. We used a lot of third-party providers for our content last time, that we had to sign licensing agreements. So their licensing agreement drove us to be strict with our licensing agreement. I mean, the permission we had to get to use it. We are not using any content in this course that we're concerned about violations of copyright, like we were for our last course. So that was a long way of saying, no, we are not going to have a big legal agreement for people to sign this time.
But you
Jeff,
will.
It is also not
got you.
going to be available to everyone who asks either. And we understood from DCP Legal that as a course provider, whoever develops it has a right to decide who can and can't deliver it.
Jeff, to catch you up, we are talking about labeling this the alternate mandatory course
As a title?
as a title.
So if I submit a curriculum that I produced over the past week with that satisfy the requirements for a mandatory course, I would have the alternate, it would be titled the alternate mandatory course if more providers submit their own mandatory courses.
You can submit it with any name you choose.
Well,
Peter,
again,
just,
hold on a second. I think we've got to be consistent on what we're going to do. Jeff, I think it's going to be similar. It's gonna, they have to prove to us the fact that this is not gonna be a confusing course. This is what our situation is right now, is that we're concerned about the agents and how they're gonna look at this course. Now, if they're gonna look at your course, I mean, it's gonna get diluted and it's gonna even more so. So we've got to make sure that this is why the alternate thing is what we've decided would be at least.
But if
So
you
just for-
already have a
just-
mandatory, why do you need an I mean, Jeff, if you already have a mandatory, they can take the mandatory and their electives and they're done. You don't have to offer an alternate mandatory. Offer the one mandatory, that's it.
But I may have missed the part of the conversation because I'm late, and again, I apologize, but from the last meeting, Cindy presented saying, you know, these are emerging trends and topics, plus the same topics that are in the mandatory course. And if they are the same, then why doesn't she just call it the same title and submit it as substantially the same content?
Because it is
It's not,
absolutely not the same content.
right.
The other class is called Agency Law for Real Estate. This class is called Hot Topics in Real Estate Laws and Fair Housing, which we are going to add alternate mandatory course to the title. So they're going to know that one course is about agency law and a whole bunch of other stuff, satellites and whatever else is in there, real estate teams. And this course is about Hot Topics in Real Estate and Fair Housing - alternate mandatory course.
And they can take one or the other. They do not need to take both.
And why is this being submitted with 9 months left of the cycle? If it's that important, shouldn't it just be approved as elective and pushed out to all the local boards anyway?
This is submitted as, I believe you, this is submitted as a mandatory course, and this special meeting was called to consider it as a mandatory course. Ryan can confirm that.
It doesn't need to be confirmed. I understood.
I just want to state that I have an issue that not every school can teach the course. That's just limiting it. And, you know, our course is not like that. That's all. I mean, that brings an issue to me.
That was my understanding from DCP Legal. We had that entire discussion at the last cycle when we understood, CTR understood that we had to deliver to everyone. And then when Jeff offered an alternate mandatory course last time with the same title, but it was an alternate course, it had different content than our course did. I understood from legal, we in fact did not need to do train the trainer, and we did not need to provide it to everyone, that the course provider, even with mandatory courses, had the option who to deliver it to. Again, that was a guidance that we got during the last cycle that we are still believing to be true, unless we hear otherwise from DCP Legal.
Just
But
to be
it's
clear,
not what and we had already offered it to individuals that we did not believe were qualified to teach it, which was painful. And then we learned we didn't have to do it. So it was information I kind of wish I had asked at the start of the process during the last cycle.
just to clarify, in part, the vote for the previous cycle for that course was determining whether my course content was substantially the same as yours. Those were the words that I used and the words that were discussed. So it was determined that it was substantially the same, which was, I suppose, in part why the name was the same. We're going to confuse the heck out of licensees here. 9 months in, 9 months left, rather. That's my major concern. I'm sure her course is fantastic. I haven't seen it. The last course was great. That's my 2 cents. So thanks for your time.
Sharon,
I stand
I
by
think
my
we've already
motion.
done all this.
I stand by my motion, which I'm going to amend. I move that we approve the course as alternate mandatory course.
And I second that.
okay, I'm going to go individually, yes or no, okay? I'm not going to vote unless it's a tie. Linda? Linda Burnham? How do you vote?
I think she may be frozen.
Okay, Ted, how do you vote?
Yeah. Yes.
Morag?
Yes,
Okay. Oops. Amy?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Sharon? Sharon? Sharon?
No,
The only person, Linda, for the record, please. I don't know. What happened? Is she gone?
Amy, you're muted if you're trying to communicate with us.
I said, can Linda, since we can't hear Linda, can she put her vote on the meeting chat? Is that possible?
Hi, guys. I
Oh,
had
there
to
she is.
phone in because I had to phone in because something happened. They're trying to get me back on track, but I'm not on track. So you're asking for a vote,
Yes, Linda.
then?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
so I'm voting a yes on the proposal.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes is the majority. It passes. Okay.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Anybody have any other
Good luck
questions?
with it.
Anything to go over? This is it for today. Thank you all for joining in.
Thank you.
Meeting
Thank you.
adjourned.
Bye, everybody.